Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey here once again with another video on Superman and Lois Season 4. Now, I want to say, well yeah, actually it will be. Yesterday from when this video comes out, we had the big Saturday, the big day at Comic-Con, usually when you get some of the biggest stuff across movie and TV, showcasing their stuff. Marvel had their stuff. Don't know what's going on there with Robert Downey Jr. It's pretty bonkers. Don't even know if it makes sense, but anyway, we'll see what happens there. But of course, we also had Superman and Lois making their debut at Comic-Con after 3 seasons and now going to their fourth because they were a COVID show, so never really got to, and also where they used to premiere their seasons, just never really lined up with going to Comic-Con. But they also made their debut in Hall H, which was the first time, well, especially like a CW DCTV show had been in there since Arrow season 3 and Flash season 1. So like what, almost like going on 10 years essentially, like ages since there's been that presence in all H, because usually they'd all like put them all together in a, so they could go one after the other and have like a 4 or 5 hour stretch or something in another room, which was a pretty big room. I remember going there. Wasn't as big as Hall H, but it was a pretty big room at the same time. Now, I was actually like planning on covering whatever they were going to do there. Most people thought it was going to be a trailer, like as it, like just after it came out and stuff. But the reason this is late, and I am doing this video like a day after, pretty much after the actual panel, is I actually heard about 12 hours before the panel, maybe 12, 14 hours, give or take a couple of hours, that I heard that it wasn't going to be a trailer that was shown. So that immediately made me go, okay, that sort of makes sense, because they'd released that trailer that came out on the website earlier in the week, like what, 3 or 4 days before Comic-Con, or at least specifically this day of Comic-Con. So I thought, like, I was okay, that makes sense. And they told me there was going to be a special look. Now I thought it was actually going to be a behind the scenes on set, because that's sort of what I thought like a special look would be. So, oh, this is them filming the final season and stuff. So you get a bit of a hint of the stuff that might be in some of the trailers, but it's not a trailer, you know, it's just a behind the scenes, a bit of a fun thing. But instead, they actually released a full-on scene, and it's not like, oh, here's a 30-second sneak peek or something. It's like 3 minutes long, or like 2.5, 3 minutes long, or something like that, because it has some like before and after stuff attached to it. But yeah, at least like 2.5 minutes roughly, this scene. It's pretty crazy that they released this, especially what's within the scene itself. And if this doesn't get you excited, at least specifically for the premiere 2 hour, well, episodes, because it's 2 episodes airing back to back on October 17th. If this doesn't get you excited, I don't know what will. So I'm just going to give my reaction to all this, because as I said, I left it not really knowing what it was going to be. I just thought, well, I'll come back on when I can be bothered, you know, when I wake up, because obviously Australian time zones. I think the actual panel was at like 4 or 5 a.m. my time. So it's like when I get around to it, I can sit down, watch it, and then record whatever I want to record. So that time's now. But I can tell you, when I clicked play and started watching what I was seeing, like I saw like the thumbnail on YouTube and stuff like that. I was like, okay, what's this? And I saw the length and I was like, okay, this can't be what I think it is, because it just said Superman versus Doomsday or something like that. I'm like, okay, surely this isn't like this big thing. I thought it might have been, once again, like a behind the scenes thing, maybe like a VFX breakdown or something like that, like how they crafted Doomsday or whatever it might be. When I started watching it, my jaw, well, obviously didn't hit the floor, because I can't unhinge my jaw like that, but it was it was pretty close to that happening. If I could do that, that's what would have happened essentially. But this is like what I'd assume is like a decent majority of the fight that we're going to see. What I would assume is towards the beginning of episode 1, if not just the opening of episode 1 and just the opening of season 4 or the final season. And we get like a pretty decent like hint as to where things are going, and you know what the ending of this fight will be, though we don't get the specific straight up ending. And at the same time, I don't know if we get the specific straight up start, because we do start this fight with saying that Superman does not have his cape. And of course, we'd seen in the trailers and even that really short teaser trailer they released like maybe just over a week ago, roughly, whenever it was, that like Superman's cape was on the moon. So I don't know if that really means whether we should just assume this is where the fight picks up, or whether there's like maybe a minute or something before this fight takes place or whatever it is. But it's important to remember where we end last season, like the cliffhanger, it's those two, Superman and Doomsday, going head to head, literally charging at each other on the moon. So maybe the opening shot is literally the cape there, just floating, ripped up. And then we pick up here where, you know, they're all getting dragged along and just fighting. And I think that's Mars that we're going across, I think, based off the dust. So that might be what happens there. But of course, we know that it cuts off before any, I guess, decisively major moments happen, aka someone being confirmed dead. Now, just briefly, just before we jump into like specific stuff that's in this scene, I know there was some other stuff said at this panel, and I think even in maybe like an interview or two, like afterwards. Like obviously they just don't do the panel. There's some interviews and stuff afterwards. I need to like conglomerate that all down from various interviews, and I'll just do one video breaking anything that's interesting said. I know there was like one specific thing. I think they might have made a new suit, but I don't know what specifically. If this interview is a bit clickbaity, so I might have to go just look at it specifically, but I'll do that in another video in a few days. But let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts on this. Are you pleased from what you saw in this sneak peek scene, even though it's pretty much more than a sneak peek? I mean, it's 3 minutes long. It's like what, a 15th of an episode, if not like borderline a 10th of an episode anyway. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, as well as any thoughts about where you think it goes past this point. Always curious to hear what you guys are thinking. And of course, if you watched it and you enjoyed this video, drop a like, takes 2 seconds. Now, the first thing I do want to bring up, because there was a bit of conjecture online, but of course you get a lot of idiots, like just like numb dumb heads on like online on Twitter and stuff. But I have to compliment the CGI. I was really worried going into specifically scenes like this in this final season, because we heard the budget was getting not just you're losing $1 off your paycheck type of budget cut. It was losing a decent amount of its budget. We knew that was happening, so I really was worried going into this. But I had said this in videos, the thing going their way in regards to maybe leveling off some of the budget concerns, at least when it comes to CGI and it looking good, was that they were filming the season well in advance of it airing and it coming out. And if you know about like visual effects and stuff, you can give someone $1 million compared to $100,000, but if they only have a day to do it, the person that has 2 weeks to do it on $100,000 will do a much better job. That's just always going to happen, because obviously you get the creative time and stuff like that. So we knew with this extra time that they might be able to level off some of the concerns around the budget issues around CGI and there being enough, stuff to do there. So I'm liking what I'm seeing here, like especially some of the close-up stuff with Doomsday. I mean, specifically with Doomsday, we can see him changing, because we can see like him, like I guess like getting effectively killed by something and then sort of like regenerating or quickly or just adapting to it. So that was really cool. Like he's looking more like Doomsday throughout the fight. Like he even grows like the rocky eyebrows, like even does those type of things. So I am wondering, by the end of this fight, like when Superman is quote unquote dead, whether he like just straight up looks like Doomsday from the comic books. Like he's pretty much right there. Like he's growing all that rocky formation that sort of builds those features from the comics. And we don't even get the 100% full fight scene here. So I'm very intrigued to see what happens by the end of it. Now, of course, Superman in this, though he doesn't have his cape, I think some of the VFX around him was really, really good, especially that bit where he's smashed into the asteroid and stuff, and he's almost making this like, I know, like a last effort or last stand against Doomsday, or maybe, or more, if I have to be honest, him realizing what he has to do, like the situation he's in and what he has to do to potentially stop this thing that's fighting him, and the limits that he's having at the moment in regards to dealing with the punishment that he's taking. And just like when he like does the heat vision and stuff, that looks really, really, really cool. Like that looks movie level in my opinion, the heat vision scene there. So once again, it plays into those thing I was talking about before, where people had those concerns about the CGI, but that time allowed. And it wouldn't surprise me a lot if they really spent time polishing specifically this scene, not only because it's probably going to be the big opening into your season. There might be something briefly before this, but this is like the big, like, ooh, this is what we've got going on. But also you're showing it to a large audience in Hall H, might I say. A lot of people there probably haven't watched the show. I think they said that like at that point, there was probably like about 6,000 to 7,000 people in the hall at that time. And like, I'm not gonna lie, I love Superman and Lois as a show, but I already reckon like, you'd be lucky if 1,000 people have watched the show, whether it's they're up to date with it or even watched an episode of the show. So you got to you're almost like advertising the show in your final season, not just appealing to people that already watch it and are going to watch the show regardless of whether this scene looks good or bad. Now, of course, Doomsday, does he die? I don't know. We've talked about in the trailer where there's a suggestion that Doomsday isn't dead at this point, but there's also no confirmation. This scene obviously cuts off. It doesn't even show Superman dying. So there's no confirmation here or there in regards to where that's going to happen. I have a feeling they're going to do that, or maybe they're just going to make it believe that maybe there's a suggestion that Doomsday might still be alive out there. But I mean, if Superman can't kill him, is anyone else gonna, So I think you're probably better off making that both of them die at this point. But I do like the thought that maybe it's about getting Doomsday's body, and that might be able to help Superman live, or at least bring him back to life, or revive him, whichever way you want to put it. I do like that thought, but that's a wait and see for when the show comes out, which is what, in just over about 2.5 months from now, roughly. Still a decent while away, and we'll probably get another trailer or two before the show premieres. But then again, I don't know how much they want to show, because obviously they didn't want to show a trailer here because, like, well, we've already given a decent amount away in that trailer released a few days beforehand. So I don't know how many more trailers we'll get, but that's a wait and see. The one thing that I didn't really talk about from what I know, but then again, I still have to go over those interviews, is whether there's going to be like a Reign of the Superman type feel, because we have not only John Henry as Steel, but also have Natalie Irons with her suit, and then of course we have Jordan as Superboy. Is there going to be a bit of a feel of those three, or at least maybe just specifically Jordan and John Henry rising up to fill in that void with Superman not being there? I don't know. There was any hint of that at this point. Sorry, I have to go through interviews, but I don't know. Wait and see what happens there. Now, of course, where we go after this moment in this season with Superman, quote unquote dying, and whatever happens with Doomsday, I think that's, we're just talking about the budget thing. That's maybe where some concerns are, but I have a feeling like they're going to handle it pretty well. I think, like, I do trust Todd Helbing. I think he's done a pretty good job with the consistency of the show in regards to planning it out and stuff. And despite the struggles with what they've had to deal with, from the CW end in regards to the show in this final season specifically, I think they would have at least crafted a story to fit around their limitations. So, and we know, like, that the guest characters, or like the former series regulars that are now just going to be showing up for like a handful of episodes each, they're not going to waste time with them either. So you're not going to get a story about like Kyle getting, like, I don't know, not being able, like Kyle like waking up late for work or some crap like that. They're not going to waste time around that. So everything's going to be somewhat meaningful, especially with those characters. And then of course with the Kent family, at least, especially in this early part of this season, they're going to be dealing with the loss of, well, Superman, of course, but their father and or husband. So I think that they're going to handle it well. I know there's concerns there, but I'm not too concerned. I think my concern would be once the show starts, and then those concerns jump at you and go, oh, okay, maybe they're not handling this this well. But for now, I'm fine with it. I'm pretty confident with, or at least I got my trust in the people running the show. But yeah, if you've not watched the footage yet, I would have played some stuff on screen. Obviously, I'm not going to play I didn't play the actual scene because one went for 3 minutes, but of course had like score and a lot of stuff going on, so just would have gotten claim. So not going to do that. But yeah, if you haven't watched it, be sure to go watch the entire thing on YouTube. Unless you want to be spoiled. Unless you want to save it for when you watch the actual premiere. Then if that's the case, then fair enough. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts on this. Loving it, not liking it, concerns, theories. Let me know. Always curious to read what you guys are thinking. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. And I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.